Hi, everybody. It's Joe Jaffe on this Sunday afternoon, and I thought I'd start off with the latest Storm Prediction Center uh, assessment of severe weather risk today. And you don't really see this too often, but they actually labeled an area of high risk for severe weather in parts of East Texas and across almost the northern half of Louisiana, and that's all encased in a larger area of moderate risk that goes from East Texas across the northern half of Louisiana into interior Mississippi. And then, of course, you have this larger area of enhanced risk. This is quite a dangerous situation that's developing with regards to the severe weather threat for later today and for tonight. So, again, high risk doesn't show up too often. And let me see if I can punch up real fast, because I might be able to pull up the tornado. Let's take a look. Yeah, we could get the tornado risk here. So here's that separated out. You can see what the high risk is and the moderate risk. That is pretty unusual. And when we switch over to tornado probability, that's a big number. 30% probability of a tornado in that area of high risk, encased inside that larger area of 15%. So there are going to be some twisters out of this. And the Storm Prediction Center has been talking about tornado supercells that could develop. So we're going to be watching closely the radar. Here's the latest view, and there are some embedded severe thunderstorms that we've seen already. We're going to have to wait to see what kind of squall line develops later this afternoon into this evening. But this is the upper air disturbance that is causing all this, that eventually is going to make for another round of substantial rains for the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast, and we'll show you that on the models in just a second. So we'll keep our eyes on the radar during the afternoon. Here's just, at least at early afternoon, we have extensive flood watches up, in addition to this severe thunderstorm watch that covers a large area at the moment across northwest Louisiana, even to southwestern Arkansas, throughout much of eastern Texas, including the Dallas, I believe it's also inside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And the darker browns are some severe thunderstorm warnings that are out, and the reds here indicative of tornado warnings that have been issued for a few counties. It looks like Shelby and DeSoto County as of 1 o'clock this afternoon. So I'm sure there are going to be many more that are going to come out as we go through the rest of the afternoon and into the evening. Very impressive on the satellite loop when you take a look at the visible. If you look closely, you can see the high cloud tops here from some of the thunderstorms as all of this just blows right up. Here's our storm from a couple of days ago that is now moving well southeast of Nova Scotia and out. So we're kind of in this break area in between. Much has been the pattern of these sort of 2 days of nasty weather, 2 days of dry weather. So these storms are roughly coming every 2.5 days apart. So here's one. Here's the next one, and there's one right behind that one. And I'll give you the view from the Pacific side, and you can see there's the back edge of the storm the storm system that is now in Texas. And here comes, there's a disturbance up here in the northwest, and then we have this other system, well-defined storm coming into the picture in the Pacific that is moving right along and eventually heading into the Pacific Northwest. So definitely very busy today. As we look at the GFS model, and this is after 8 o'clock tonight, it just shows a large enhancement of severe weather overnight into tomorrow morning across northeastern Louisiana, southeastern Arkansas, and through much of the northern half of Mississippi, and then eventually moving into Alabama. Meanwhile, the low center that comes out of this, that develops in Texas, runs northeastward toward southern Lake Michigan, and by Monday night we've got rain here in the east and a trailing front that runs down right along the east coast, as this low only gets so far north before it starts to turn more eastward, and we're going to probably wind up with another inch to inch and a half, maybe 2 inches of rain out of this as that low moves east. The system that was in the northwest behind it, that drops down into Texas, and you've got a round of solid snow into Colorado with some rain into Kansas. Now what happens is that after this first system gets out of the south, the atmosphere is going to be stabilized to some degree, so there probably won't be any kind of repeat outbreak in East Texas, but you start to get into more energy and more tropical inflow as you move. Right now we're into Wednesday, so I think the system for later this week, we're going to have to focus our attention on severe weather, probably for parts of from maybe New Jersey on down throughout the southeast. I would think this area might be at risk for some severe storms as that next low moves right along. And indeed, at least the GFS does flare some up here as we move east. So this is for Thursday into Friday, another round of solid rain until that low clears out of here. That might take a day or two to get out of the way because the upper air support is going to take its time moving eastward. In the meantime, we've got a sizable storm on the model coming into toward Northern California here later next week. We'll have to see if this holds together on future model runs, but this is producing some heavy rain, very heavy rains in central and northern California, and in the mountains some snow and rains up into Oregon and Washington eventually. That's a pretty strong low, deep low pressure, 982 millibars. You don't, you know, that's a pretty hefty system that comes in, and that runs up into the northwest. So it looks like, at least for the east, we've got two more weather systems to deal with. Now that pattern of a storm every 2 or 3 days might get a bit of a break after this one pulls out, because it looks like there might be a little bit of a ridge that might try to build here in the east, however temporary. So we'll have to monitor that. It looks like, you know, there's some warmer air that's going to try to come up. We're now into the week of April 11th, April 10th, and April 10th through the 17th. And, you know, there's going to be another low that's going to come out eventually out of this, according to what the models show, but we'll see how that plays. That's down now in fantasy land, so we're not really going to be too concerned about it at this point. It's front and center. We've got this severe weather event for today, and you know, this spring pattern is so much different than last year's. You know, that's for sure, because last year everything just kind of weakened as it moved east. I mean, there were severe weather outbreaks, but they not at the frequency of what we're seeing. And here is our system at the moment. When we look at the upper air, and it's right in here. Here's the upper supports. You got this, you know, inflow. I'm looking at 18,000 feet here, but if we look at the lower levels of the atmosphere, you're going to see what exactly is going on in terms of the inflow here. And let me just, I'll pull up the, we'll go to the 5,000 foot level, and whoops, that's for temperature. Well, while I have the temperature up, I mean, this is very warm tropical air that's advecting northward, right there. That's all advecting toward from south to north, and you have a strong southerly winds at that 5,000 foot level, bringing up all this tropical moisture. So the inflow is all there. At the same time, you know, you've got colder air that's coming down, creating that huge contrast zone that you see off, you know, when you have severe weather outbreaks. When we look at the actual wind that's doing all this, that's all down in here. You can see the wind barbs. You know, they're pretty solid. Let me just get the straight wind up, because that's a little bit easier to see. Hang on, keeps giving me temperatures. I just want the wind. Here we go. It's not exactly what I wanted. Nope. I'm losing it a little bit here. All right, so you know what? We're going to stick with the, we'll go with the 850. Here it is. That's what I was looking for. Now, this is a pretty strong jet. You can see here the wind on the jet, you know, up to 50 or more knots, right here coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, straight up into the area where we see the highest severe weather risk, which is right up about in there. And you know, this makes complete sense with what the models are showing. You know, you've got cold advection, cold air advecting southeastward from the Rockies, and you got this really warm tropical air that's just shooting right up in and around a developing low. So you know, all the ingredients are here with regards to severe weather, that severe weather outbreak. Now we'll look at that upper air again. and see where it takes us going forward. So here's that disturbance that's moving through now. You see it just kind of lifts up northeast of the Great Lakes and then just translates its way toward the East Coast. This is the system for Tuesday. Now here's the one right behind it. Ridge builds out in the west. So you've got this ridge, trough, a little ridging here. So that's sort of the break period that we'll get Wednesday and Wednesday night. And then that system really kind of wraps up aloft. That's a fairly intense upper air feature that forms here in the eastern part of the United States. So, you know, we're going to get a pretty solid area of rain and wind, and probably even some severe weather in the parts of the mid-Atlantic and the southeast until this upper low clears by. That gets pretty intense here as it moves into Pennsylvania and western New York. So there'll be a well-defined storm center with that. Here's the system I was telling you about coming into the west. That strong one that's moving into the western part of the United States toward the end of next week into next weekend. Very, very strong. You know, how the model handles this going forward is a little different because that storm is so strong that it actually forces this ridge to build up here in the east in that early part of the week of April 10th or so. It starts to build, and you know that might allow for a warm-up for a few days before that system translates eastward. So, and there's one right behind that one. So you can see the active pattern just continues. There's that little break there, but that active pattern is just going to continue until it changes. I mean, there's no, you know, we look at the wider view of the upper air. There's just, you know, a lot of dynamics here in the atmosphere. You've got blocking. You know, here we are. This is again now toward next week. We've got higher than normal pressures across the polar region, so the jet is really displaced pretty far to the south. I mean, it's amazing how you got this polar flow set up now. You get a polar flow now in the springtime with the April sun really going to work on the atmosphere and warming things up in a hurry, and you're going to have big atmospheric headaches in the atmosphere that are going to need to be relieved with severe weather outbreaks. And this just goes on and on as we move through the 16-day period. I'll just back this up so you can see it from the beginning. And here we are for today. So there's that southern system here. You know, that lifts up. And there it goes for Tuesday into the east. Then we have the next one right behind it. And that's going to be a bit of a powerhouse. And that's for Thursday and Friday, maybe even still lingering around on Saturday. And here's that deep storm that comes into the west that drives the trough down in the western part of the United States. So you get, you know, at least temporarily, you still have this southern jet like, you know, well established. The polar flow sort of retreats a little bit, but there's still some there's still some semblance of it there, and you know, higher than normal pressures riding up over Greenland. So I think this ridge here in the east is going to be temporary until, you know, that western system swings out, and then it's back to the same old story in the eastern part of the United States. Very active pattern ahead. So let's just real quick just take a look at what the Storm Prediction Center, again, to review. Moderate to high risk of severe weather from East Texas into much of central Mississippi. This is for the rest of today and into tonight. And we certainly have a radar that reflects all that developing severe weather. It's already there, and it's still early in the afternoon here. So we're going to see this radar really light up even more late this afternoon into the first part of tonight. Okay, so there's a little blip there. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you're in the northeastern part of the United States, you've got sunshine. Hooray! So enjoy that. Latest website posts on meteorologistjoechaffee.com. You can check the New York City angle on all of this with Angry Ben at nycweathernow.com. And you can download my app and subscribe to my forecast for New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, Hudson Valley, Eastern Pennsylvania, and Connecticut. The app is free, and the forecast subscription is just $1 a month. And, of course, you could subscribe for free to my YouTube channel, and you will get notifications anytime new videos come up. Just hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel page. I really appreciate it, and I do take part in the conversation. I'm very active in it. So feel free to leave your thoughts and ideas, and I will respond to them. Have a good Sunday.